Thank you, Madam. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak on this piece of legislation, which proposes to specify conditions under which a court can stay an arbitral award. That is, inducement, corruption, and fraud are some of the reasons given for this. While this seems to be very reasonable and correct to narrow down the reasons why somebody can appeal to a court, the comments by Sri Pinaki Mishra ji also needs to be, I think, taken into consideration, and I would request the Minister to please do so. The second objective is relating to the removal of the 8th Schedule of the Act, which deals with qualification for accreditation of arbitrators. This is probably because the government does not want to come to Parliament merely to change qualification for arbitrators. This will also help the government to invite foreign arbitrators to take part in arbitration proceedings in the country. I think it seems to be reasonable, so these are the two proposals brought before the House of the Government, which I welcome, Madam. Taking advantage of this opportunity, I wish to make a few quick points for consideration of the Honourable Minister. Madam, I hope this bill would facilitate to help the country to better our 63rd rank in ease of doing business. But the main problem or dispute between parties is when there's a problem in execution or enforcement of a contract. But if you look at India's rank in enforcing contracts, as many speakers have mentioned before me, which is one of the constituents of the ease of doing business, it is not so encouraging. We are lagging far behind at 163 out of 190 countries, and the time taken for resolving a dispute here is sometimes running into 1,500 days even, Madam. So I suggest for the consideration of the Honourable Minister to address the issues related to this, and one such issue that needs to be addressed is the state of the judiciary in enforcing contracts. I don't know to what extent this bill will help in addressing that. There is no doubt that we are getting a little success through tribunals and alternative dispute resolution mechanisms under the Arbitration Act, but it is not sufficient because the problem seems to lie still with the judiciary. In other jurisdictions, there is maximum deference and minimum interference by the judiciary in the awards passed through arbitration. So I suggest for the consideration of the Honourable Minister to create a mechanism and see that there is minimal judicial interference, which will help us. The second point is that there also seems to be a problem of incongruous and flawed interpretation of various laws by various courts. There is no consistency. So I suggest for the consideration of the Honourable Minister to give the government's interpretation to what such provisions mean so that they cannot be interpreted otherwise. This, I think, will help the courts and the arbitrators while interpreting the provisions. My final point, before I give one suggestion and then close, Madam, can we also think of mandating a clause in the agreement itself that parties should go to a specific institution that will conduct the arbitral proceedings if anything goes wrong? This will help avoid showing partisan or partiality towards arbiters appointed after the dispute arises. One suggestion I want to make, and the Minister also being Minister for IT and Communication, I think, should seriously consider, is that artificial intelligence is now being tested even in the judiciary. I'm aware of some court experiments being done in the state of Wisconsin in the U.S., where they're using AI to actually produce the sentencing after the judgment is made. So, with India's IT prowess, can we also start developing artificial intelligence for arbitration proceedings?
No.
Because I think that the issue of inducement, corruption, fraud, and all these things that we're trying to address here could easily be addressed. And perhaps, except for some very complicated cases, many of the more simple cases should possibly be able to be done by artificial intelligence also. Thank you, Madam.